Want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people committed to a life rooted in science and free of supernatural belief.
This is a call-in show. However, we only have one phone line. So if you can't get through, we invite you to tweet us at FFTVKnox. While we go over a few announcements, we invite you to start calling now at the number on the screen. Get a pen and paper, and we'll give you our email address later in the show.
All right. Well, the Atheist Society of Knoxville frequently has fun meetups at a bar or eatery. Tonight's meetup is at Barley's in the Old City, starting at around 5:30. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. And as Matt Dillahunty at Atheist Experience says, everyone is welcome for our to the happy hour for food, drink, and conversation. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee have several regular monthly meetings. The first and third Sunday mornings are usually lectures and lively roundtable discussions. Book club meets on the second Sunday, and the reflection group gets together for a potluck lunch on the fourth Sunday. But this month, we have a special program. Our annual public lecture will be held this Saturday, May 11th at 2 p.m. at Pellissippi State Community College. Professor Massimo Pigliucci, a philosopher of science at City University of New York, will present a talk titled Science, Philosophy, and the Meaning of Life. And the day after that, on Sunday afternoon, Professor Pigliucci will lead a discussion of his most recent book, Answers for Aristotle, How Science and Philosophy Can Lead Us to a More Meaningful Life. This will be held at Barnes & Noble Booksellers at 4 p.m. on this coming Sunday.
All right, we'll visit our website for additional details, including times and locations. Well, Ralph, perhaps the most serious problem keeping Tennesseans on the lowest rungs of the educational ladder is the belief among so many of its citizens that the Bible is to be taken literally as the inerrant Word of God. According to a recent Gallup poll, about 46% of Americans think that a God created humans pretty much the way they are today, about 10,000 years ago. With all the scientific knowledge available today, this is, well, simply inexcusable ignorance. So today our topic deals with the history of the earth and its age. So viewers, our question for the day is, does the Bible lie? But I guess before we discuss these points, we have some in the news items.
Yeah, right. And I would just say this 46% on this Gallup poll is something that's been pretty consistent over many years, or perhaps even decades. In the country, we don't seem to be progressing very much.
It's been surprising. Where I grew up in Minnesota and went to school, I think the percentage would have been quite different. I don't think that most of my school cohorts would have thought that. I mean, I think the number would have been much smaller. I think, maybe 20%.
Yeah, which leads me to believe, I agree with you that that's a nationwide poll. So you think what it's like here in the South.
Yeah, there we go.
People are committed to this biblical.
So in Minnesota, where they're aware of the results of modern science, they're being balanced by some other states that aren't doing so well.
Yeah. Okay, well, back in February, 11 Orange County public schools in Florida allowed Christian evangelists to give away Bibles and promote religion on campus. So the Freedom from Religion Foundation thought turnabout was fair play. In conjunction with the Central Florida Freethought community, they asked to be allowed to distribute Freethought literature on May 2nd, the so-called National Day of Prayer.
Ooh, well, the catch was that the Orange County Public Schools demanded the right to vet the Freethought literature. Last week, the district announced formally that many submitted publications, including Sam Harris's book, Letter to a Christian Nation, and an essay, The Truth, by 19th century freethinker Robert G. Ingersoll, are being censored. Also censored, Jesus is Dead, a book by Robert Price, professor of philosophy and religion, What on Earth is an Atheist, a book by Madeline Murray O'Hare, and Why I'm Not a Muslim, a book by Ibn, whose last name I can't be certain, Warraq?
Warraq, yeah.
All right. And several FFRF non-tracks, including Dear Believer, Why Jesus, What Does the Bible Say About Abortion, and an X-rated book. The FFRF called the school district censorship some of its Freethought publications illegal and is considering its options. Well, I hope their options include a large monetary settlement.
Well, I hope so. I don't know how this is going to pan out, but I don't know what these people are afraid of. You know, they're afraid that their kids are going to get exposed to some literature that disagrees with what their prevailing religious thought is. So anyhow, but on the positive side, they did get some handouts in public schools. The board approved some non-tracts published by the FFRF, including What is Wrong with the Ten Commandments, 10 Common Myths About Atheists, and Why Women Need Freedom from Religion. Other secular groups involved in the protest distributed a section from The Age of Reason, a classic critique of the Bible by Thomas Paine, and a brochure, Why Atheism?
I must say, Age of Reason is one of the things that I've read and enjoyed immensely, and I think that the world is a better place because of that publication alone. Of course, the irony is that the Bible, a bestseller, is rarely read, and it's got X-rated sections in it. It's full of violence, obscenity, and immoral conduct committed or blessed by the biblical deity. Yet the government did not censor the Bible, but found innocuous comments by Sam Harris may cause substantial disruption of the school day.
Yeah. Well, we should also mention that May 11th, 4 days from now, is the birthday of one of the world's truly great physicists, Nobel Prize winner Richard Feynman. He was born in 1918. And a lot of people have heard his name and maybe even some of his lectures.
We've got a call?
Do we have a call?
We'll grab the call then.
Okay.
All right. Well, hello, caller. Welcome to Freethought Forum. Can we get a name or a nickname?
Leslie.
Hello, Leslie. Thank you for calling. And do you have a comment or a question for us?
Well, on the bottom of the screen it just says, does the Bible lie? And I just kind of wanted to, I guess, express my opinion about that.
Sure. All right. Go for it.
Well, I feel like that's kind of an odd question to ask, I guess, just because, to me it's like asking, does the Odyssey lie, or does Beowulf lie? It's kind of hard to, for me, I feel like the Bible is a book that was written by individuals. So, it's a different argument to say, well, does it contradict itself or something like that? But I think more than anything, it's just, I guess, seeing why people would think that it lies.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I put that up there really to sort of say that the Bible doesn't really lie, okay? It's just that it was written by people who didn't understand the way the world works. And they didn't deliberately go out of their way to try to disseminate falsehoods. They just didn't know.
It was their way of understanding the universe around them, and I think all throughout history that's exactly, what people have been trying to do. And as, we further, go further in our culture, we kind of realize that, there are other ways for explaining the universe around us.
Okay. Leslie, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
Let's take the hypothetical approach on this in two ways. Let's say that the world around us is the handiwork, the book, so to speak, of a creator. And if the world around us tells a different story than the Bible, what would we conclude then about the Bible?
I think that's a good question. I think that, well, first off, I think that the Bible may have been written differently. If things were different in the universe, then, things would be different, in the Bible. But I think that it's just, I guess the idea that people who believe in the Bible are always going to believe in it, and that's something that's a choice of theirs, and that's a fine choice that they're able to make. And I feel that regardless of what actually happens, individuals like that will be able to justify what is going on based on the Bible and whatever convoluted sense they believe is,
all right, but my hypothetical had a finer point, and let's say that the world all around us was created by a creator. Now, the Bible says some things about the world around us that is wrong. I like to say the trivial example, we don't really think snakes ever talked.
Right.
So if there is like a God and a Bible, a God and a devil, where one of them is deceiving us, which one would the book be? Who would be the author of that book?
I think that's a good question. I don't know that I really have an answer for that. Do you feel that you have, an opinion or a take on that?
Well, I think what you said initially is the actual answer, that it was written by people. What I was trying to do there was actually force a rhetorical kind of point that if the world, the universe around us is a book, and it disagrees with a book that we hold in our hands, then the author of that book is wrong or deceptive.
Or possibly wrong, maybe just from that point of view, or from that time period, perhaps.
I said wrong or deceptive. We can't conclude deception, that's for sure.
You have to give us a little time here. Where we're going with this is the biblical literalism that many fundamentalist Christians believe, that they believe the world was actually created about 10,000 years ago in 6 24-hour days, and the people were pretty much created at the same time, as we are now. And this gets to be more than a matter of choice when they try to foist this position on other people. And it does do damage to children in school, because teachers are intimidated about trying to teach them what we know about the history of the universe and the earth and evolution. So it is a problem that, we just can't dismiss and say, well, let those people believe that, because it does affect society.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really good point to make. I think that it was, Richard Dawkins who made a very good point and said science is the absence of subjectivity. And I feel like a lot of people, I've heard arguments from Christians that say, well, science is just an opinion of that specific scientist. You're just,
right.
You're just understanding, you're just believing somebody else and what they say. And that's not science. And I feel like people have a really convoluted idea about what hard science is and how the scientific method works. And there's a reason that it works, and there's a reason that we use it. And that's because it is the absence of subjectivity, which is ultimately the only way that we can really gather, objective information about the world around us.
Yeah, very good.
Well, that's great. Well, Leslie, can we ask, how did you find our show?
Well, I just got off of work, and I just turned on the TV, and I saw the title of the program and said, that's interesting. And it, I actually, usually on channels like this, it's usually religious-based. And so seeing the Freethought Forum, I was like, I wonder, where they're going with this. And, I turned it on and just thought that you guys were great. I think that it's great that you guys are on the air, and we're in the shiny buckle of the Bible Belt right now, and that this is available to people who are interested or maybe have questions.
Okay,
well, that's great.
Very much for calling in, and
absolutely.
If you didn't catch the beginning of the show, we'll have a meetup down at Barley's after the show. If you'd like to stop in and have a beer or pizza or something like that, please do so.
I would love to maybe have the opportunity to do that. I've actually been a part of the Ask community on Meetup for a few years now. So.
Oh.
Well, that's great.
All right.
Well, thank you guys again for everything that you are doing, and keep it up, and we'll keep fighting the good fight every day.
Okay. Thank you for calling.
Thanks for calling.
Bye.
All right.
Okay, well, I started in, wanted to mention Richard Feynman's birthday, okay? It's on May 11th, and he was a great physicist, and a lot of people have heard his name and seen some of his lectures. He really came onto the national scene in connection with the Challenger space shuttle disaster in 1986. And he showed that booster failure shortly after takeoff was caused by letting the O-rings in the fuel module get frozen and cracked and then release fuel. And that's where most people got to know because he was on TV quite a bit at that time.
He's quite a showman.
Yeah,
and his personality works well for that.
Very much of a showman, and he's written a couple books that were very popular and made some DVDs. The Feynman lectures were quite popular among people, not just scientists, but a lot of lay people too. Most people don't really know what he was famous for, though. It was a theory called quantum electrodynamics, which is the most accurately tested theory in physics. And it deals with the fact that there are particles that pop in and out of free space all the time, which we don't realize because they don't exist for a very long time. But you can detect their effect on the energy levels in atoms. Strangely, an extension of this picture tells us that 95% of the mass of all material objects, you, me, the Earth, this chair, is made up of these so-called virtual particles that just pop in and out of existence. Well, that's a story for another show. But
all righty. So Ralph, the Feynman lectures were written, I think, in '61, and I've listened to the recordings of some of them, and I recognized in those recordings, as well as I bought his book on the Feynman lectures, and I recognize in them materials that were used in my college level classes. And I guess I'm wondering what your exposure to them was like.
I have to say, I honestly haven't read them.
Okay. And I could imagine, though, that there might be differences in the way physics was taught prior to those lectures, because his methods were so compelling that I think I saw a lot of my instructors copying his methods in classes I took. I was going to school in '77.
Yeah, well, I was well out of school and had already taught beginning physics classes, so we have another caller on the line here.
You want to grab it?
Hello, caller. Could you give us a name or a nickname?
Dale.
Dale. We can't hear you too well, Dale.
Speak a little more and it'll pop up. Dale?
Better now?
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you for calling. Can you give us a question or a comment, please?
Oh, yes. I'm going to address the question, does the Bible lie? I think are you familiar with the story of Noah from the Old Testament?
I have read it.
The what?
The story of Noah and the Old Testament.
Yeah, I believe it's about a worldwide flood. And my typical address to the question is, does the Bible lie? Is this? Now, did that event occur, is my question. So I was wondering, the account is there was a man named Noah who got all the animals in pairs for the ark, and a worldwide flood occurred which wiped everything out but those animals, and Noah and his sons and their families. And so I was thinking, we have animals today on the earth, and so I was wondering, did that event actually occur? Because either it did or it did not, because we have animals on the earth today, and if that event did not occur, then there wouldn't have been anyone there to save the animals.
Well, no, that's not true, Dale. I mean, the question is, did the flood occur? And the Noah's Ark story is kind of a fairy tale, and you have to realize there are actually two stories that they're interwoven, and they're kind of contradictory. The reason you don't pick them out is that they are interlaced with one another. But there were two different stories there, and they do have some contradictory points. For instance, one says Noah took two of each kind, and one says he took 2 of the unclean animals and 7 of the clean animals. So that's one thing, that there are contradictions there. Number 2, there's no evidence that there ever was any flood.
Worldwide flood.
Yeah. And this story in the Bible comes from an old Sumerian legend that was found in a book called the Epic of Gilgamesh from Sumerian legend. And there is a boat that gets built, and a man who's similar to Noah called Utnapishtim, and he takes these animals on a boat. But that flood is not worldwide, it's local. And the writers of the Genesis story, they just expanded and elaborated on it and made it into more of a legend.
Dale, did you understand our view on that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the way you asked the question had me a little confused as to which point you were emphasizing. Were you trying to ask the question, why are there, or were you trying to maybe make the assertion that the only way there can be animals here is if Noah saved them?
Yeah, because had that event occurred, there would have been no one there to save the animals. Therefore, there would not be any animals on the earth today.
So had that event occurred, Noah would have had to save all of the marsupials down in Australia, right? He'd have had to get all the kangaroos and the koala bears from Australia, and then afterwards, did he put them back? I mean, there aren't koala bears in Israel. There aren't koala bears in North America. So did he put them back in Australia?
That I wouldn't know.
Yeah, well, I think, Dale, the main thing is there just wasn't any flood. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to say that the animals wouldn't be here if Noah hadn't saved them from the flood.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because there are animals on the planet today. I'm pretty sure that no such event occurred.
Okay. Well, Dale, how did you find our show?
Oh, I've been watching the Freethought Forum on the CTV community television channel. Well, I think it is.
So you have watched us before, you're saying?
Yes.
Dale, if you look at the picture that's up behind us on the screen, it's a little bit of a cute cartoon of Noah and the ark and the animals, but he's got a woodpecker there, and the woodpecker is pecking holes in the ark.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of funny because I thought he's pecking holes in the whole story.
That's not very amusing, yeah. He's got a pecking hole in the story, I think.
Yeah. Another observation I heard someone make, a rhetorical question: did Noah save termites in the ark? And was that really a good idea?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for calling in, Dale. We appreciate it. And do watch us and call back again sometime.
Well, absolutely will. I enjoyed the show a lot.
Nice chatting, Dale.
Bye.
All right. Well, this is Freethought Forum, and I guess we're still trying to get through in the news here. All right. Well, it is also worth noting that a poll of over 10,000 people from 100 countries, Richard Dawkins was named as the world's top thinker. The poll was taken by Prospect Magazine. Their list of top 66 thinkers include many natural scientists, social scientists, economists, historians, philosophers, and writers. Theologians are noticeably missing.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Well, the final item here in the news. In another example of religious fanaticism, massive riots in Dhaka and other Bangladesh cities yesterday have left at least 36 people dead and 60 injured after tens of thousands of Islamists clashed with police, demanding stricter penalties for atheist bloggers.
My goodness.
I'm beginning to get a little scared here, huh? Police were left with no choice but to spray rubber bullets and use stun grenades to disperse tens of thousands who had gathered in the capital city, demanding harsher punishments, mainly the death penalty, for atheists who had insulted Islam.
According to the APF news agency, the protesters chanted slogans like Allah Akbar, God is greatest, and 1 point, 1 demands, atheists should be hanged. The driving force behind the Islamic protest is called, I may mangle this, Hafazat-e-Islam, a coalition seeking to impose a stricter form of Islam on Bangladeshi society. These riots follow on the heels of a vicious stabbing of one of their popular atheist bloggers. I guess we've got another call. I think we've got another call. We're going to push the button. Hello, caller. Welcome to Freethought Forum. Can we get a name or a nickname, please?
My name is Trish.
Hello, Trish.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, we're doing just great here on a spring day. And do you have a question or a comment for us?
The question that you have up there about the Bible telling lies.
Uh-huh.
The first lady who called, I kind of agreed with her. But then I got to thinking about Joseph Campbell and how he would talk about the evolution, so to speak, of mythologies, and basically that pretty much all the stories were the same, only the names had changed. And then I got to thinking that, well, in a manner of speaking, I guess the Bible is lying, because they know where they got the stories from, but they deliberately changed the name.
And Ralph here has studied some of the evolution of the Old Testament, where I guess different kingdoms in Israel, after making peace with one another, then had to lace their separate stories back together into one, and that would have been a very deliberate effort.
Well, yeah, but the early part of the Bible, that is the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, were put together by people who were trying to create a legend, a background for a newly formed Israeli state that was produced out of a lot of Canaanite villages around 1200 BCE.
Uh-huh.
And so what happens when people create these legends, whether consciously or unconsciously, they create allegories and some mythologies to explain things that they don't understand.
Correct.
And so in that sense, they weren't trying to lie,
Right,
but they
right.
just didn't come to the truth because, as I said before, they were completely unaware of any modern science. And that
Correct.
was the way they could explain it.
Well, but in terms of the gentleman who called about the flood,
Yeah.
right, when you went into the whole Gilgamesh tale, that's kind of what I'm referring to in terms of sort of recycled mythologies.
Right.
And the virgin birth, that story has been in so many ancient myths.
Right.
So in that sense, they just sort of took those and changed the name. So in that sense, it seems like, more deliberate and, in the sense of lying.
Yeah, maybe. I think our point here, I think, is that you just cannot take the Bible literally.
Oh, correct.
And live your life that way. You can take it allegorically.
Right.
And see what it represents as far as human conditions and how humans interact with the world. But to believe in it literally is to really deny your humanity, I think.
Oh, I agree.
Well, Trish,
Yeah.
So you're familiar with the Gilgamesh tale. I always like to ask people, I was exposed to it in 7th grade. When were you exposed to it?
Oh, gosh, I don't know exactly when. It just sort of lingers in my head, and as well as, the is it Mithras? That story as well. A little odd that mythology just sort of linger in my head.
Yeah.
Well, in my case, though, it was something we read in English class in 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
Meaning the school system in Minnesota was making sure we were exposed to what is arguably the world's oldest literature.
So you went to a public school then, or?
Yes.
Okay, I unfortunately went to a Catholic grammar school. I'm from Chicago, but in high school I chose public schools.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a point before. Maybe we should do a show on it sometime. And that is on Joseph Campbell. You know, he wrote. He was a very interesting guy.
Oh, yes.
And if you read The Power of Myth or The Hero with a Thousand Faces, then you begin to see how these mythologies have helped shape peoples and societies throughout history. Very fascinating.
True.
Well, Trish, sometimes my role here is to sort of act as the straight man, but I can say I genuinely don't know about this Joseph Campbell. So could you summarize for me and therefore our viewers maybe what you and Ralph are so aware of and about which I'm ignorant?
I think Ralph is probably more aware than I am. So I think he's a bit more well-read.
We'll do that after the show over a beer or something of the sort, okay? All right.
Have we asked if Trish is local? I've lost track.
I'm sorry?
Did we ask if you're local?
I live in Knoxville now, but I'm from Chicago.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Well, we invite you down to Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria every Tuesday. After the show, we'll be down there. Some people are probably gathering there right now.
Great.
Okay.
I look forward to it,
All
sir.
right. Thanks very much for calling.
Thanks
you.
much.
Could we play a promo now?
Yeah, we're about halfway through, and I guess we could get the promotional videos rolling.
We're going to take a little break here, I think, if we can get our advertisements on. And
one less God than everyone else? Well, you're not alone. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun and friendly group of people just like you that meets twice a week at a bar or restaurant. We meet every Tuesday night following the show at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria for happy hour. You'll find our group either inside or on the patio. Look for Richard Dawkins' silver-jacketed book, The God Delusion, standing upright on the table. On Fridays, we meet at Agave Azul or the Beard and Beer Market. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. We all question what we believe at one point in our lives. If this is the time for you, come join us for food, drink, conversation, and fun. Do you find stories of talking snakes laughable? Do you prefer the scientific method over supernatural beliefs? Are you concerned about religious leaders and organizations imposing their values and rules on your body, your family, and the rest of our society? Well, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meets weekly for fellowship and provides a forum for people who support skeptical thinking and rational discussion of these and other issues. To find out more information or to find out about our next meeting, visit us on the web at www.rationalist.org.
well, here we are back at Freethought Forum, and we're going to finally get to address our main topic for today, which I have sort of jokingly titled Ages of Rocks versus Rock of Ages. It's about the history of the Earth, and we're motivated to discuss what science tells us about the Earth's past on this show because of recent events in the Anderson County, where the local Baptists have succeeded in getting the county commission to put plaques up saying, "In God We Trust," over the courthouse entrances. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but to me this indicates a religious cult of people who are sort of failing in life. That is, they're incapable of framing their own destiny and must rely on a fictitious being to assure themselves that everything will turn out okay.
All right. So what does this have to do with the history of the Earth? Well, if you look at the websites of most of these churches, they will indicate that these people think the Bible is literally true and that the Earth was created in 6 literal 24-hour days about 8,000 years ago. It is sort of a willful ignorance, and it gives us a lot of insight about the minds that think advertising their inability to cope with life by putting up signs saying, "In God We Trust," that it would be a meritorious thing to do. Science tells us that the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. How long ago the oceans formed and when life first appeared. I peg that number somewhere around 3 billion years ago, plus or minus a couple hundred million years. Now, it tells us when major extinctions occurred and when modern humans first came on the scene. So we're going to talk about the different evidence that nature has provided us for unraveling the history of the earth. And none of this is going to agree with the Christian fundamentalists, whose history is based on the generations of Jews as recorded in the book of Genesis. So our question for today is to our callers out there, does the Bible lie? And I guess we've got another caller. Hello, caller. Thank you for calling Freethought Forum. Can we get a name or a nickname?
Yeah, this is Charles.
Did you say Charles?
Yeah, from Illinois.
Charles from Illinois. Oh, you're our frequent caller from Illinois?
Yeah, I think I'm the only person in Illinois that I know of.
All right. Well, thanks for being with us again here today. And the topic is, does the Bible lie? And do you have a comment or question for us on that or any other subject?
Yes, my comment on is the Bible specifically states that the death of all the firstborn in Egypt during the little, not certain I can say that, but the squabble between Moses and the Fola. Never identified who Fola is. So if that happened, how come nobody else in that era of time noticed, such as the people of Babylonia or Sumeria, that area? None of the Persia, none of the Greeks, nobody noticed.
Right.
And there's no mention of it in any of the Egyptian literature.
That's right.
So I think that was a bit of propaganda by the priesthood that approved of the texts of the sacred word.
Well,
that and propaganda being, of course, officially approved lies.
yeah. Charles, think if you were an Egyptian who had lived through that time and you saw all these babies being just suddenly killed overnight at the request of Moses, the representative of the Jewish God, wouldn't you have converted to Judaism as fast as you could?
Oh, yeah.
I sure would have. So, yeah, your question is right. No, that's this whole story of this history of the Jews, being enslaved in Egypt, and then the plagues and the Exodus and wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, and then going into Canaan and conquering the people there. That's all legend that was made up by people, as I said earlier, trying to create some sort of a history for this newly formed Israelite nation. None of that ever happened. There's no archaeological evidence of all these hundreds of thousands, supposedly almost a quarter million people wandering around.
Yeah. My comment is that the Lord God Almighty led them around the Sinai Desert for 40 years and led them and gave them the only place in that area as their holy land that didn't have any oil.
Yeah. Boy.
He wasn't very forward thinking now, was he?
That was a bummer, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, yes, there are mytholized is the word I use it. I use for what so many of the fundamentalists believe in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And there are a whole series of things in there, like Joshua being able to defeat anybody that didn't have iron chariots. Well, if God was on their side, how come they lost against the iron chariots?
Yeah, well, the whole story of Joshua going into Canaan and conquering them is, again, more of a myth. There's an interesting book called Unearthing the Bible by Finkelstein and Silberman, and they point out that there's no mention of Israel before about 1200 BCE, and which is later than the Exodus was supposed to have occurred. And that about that time, a lot of small villages grew up in Canaan, and they maintained that the Israelites were basically Canaanites. That is, they didn't come in and conquer. They just grew up there and eventually formed a political unity, which they called a nation.
Yeah, there is apparently a whole series of small village sites that's found in the area, just a little, let me put this on perspective, a little south of Israel proper, where they find all sorts of different animal bones except for pig bones, as if there was communities that live there that wouldn't eat pig.
Yes, I've heard that. Okay.
And as for the fundamentalists, there's a book out called Misquoting Jesus. It goes into detail about how later redactions and changes and so forth.
Yeah, that's a Bart Ehrman book.
Yes. And that's a very interesting read for anybody who wants to. I best let you go for other callers.
Well, thanks very much for calling in, Charles. We're always glad to have you.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye. All right, well, we got about 20 minutes, well, a little less than 20 minutes left in the show. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk a little more about our topic, the history of the Earth.
Yeah, we're moving about at the rate of plate tectonics or something here, I guess.
Yeah, yep. I think that's also about the rate fingernails grow, too, they say.
Right, exactly.
All right.
Okay, so anyhow, a while ago, I started putting together a presentation for Rationalists of East Tennessee about the history of the Earth. And most important, I wanted to discuss some of the scientific methods that allow us to infer what that history was like when nobody was around to record the events. There does exist, however, written a history of the Earth, but it's written in the rocks and in the genetic code, and not in the myths by some pastoralists who, didn't really know what happened in the past. So building this history up is a lot like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You don't go straight forward, but you fit a piece here and a piece there until you finally get a whole picture. And so there are a lot of little pieces to be fitted together. And clearly we can't cover them all, but we'll try to hit some highlights.
All right. It looks like we got paleological studies of fossil records show that the most primitive animals appear in the lowest level of the sedimentary deposits, while the advanced animals appear in the highest levels. This is exactly what one would expect from Darwinian evolution acting over a long period of time, and no exception has ever been found. I know that Stephen Jay Gould always said that, every time he digs in Jurassic deposits and does not find cow bones, he's proving evolution.
Yeah.
But the young Earth creationists try to explain this by saying that during a great flood, the more advanced animals were better able to run to the high ground. However, even in far antiquity, people noticed that the fossilized shells of marine animals, which were only found in the seas, appeared embedded in rocks high in the mountains. The conclusion was that these areas must have been underwater. Now, the young Earth creationists maintain that proves the existence of a great flood, though it totally contradicts the explanation of the sorting seen at the lower levels, where the shells are on the bottom. In fact, these marine shells at high altitude confirm one of the strongest indicator that the Earth is billions of years old, and not that there was any great flood covering the Earth. And we get another call yet? It's another call. You address them.
Okay, hello, caller. Could you give us a name or nickname?
Yes, J.D. It's a great country. You can believe it.
We're having difficulty.
The thing about it is the church community does a lot of good. They feed people, they clothe them, they're active in the community. Now, you tell me what your organization does that's worthwhile in Knoxville or to the community or to the nation or to the state. Just what
Let's get the name again.
I mean, other than just, you don't believe in God, well, I mean, you don't believe in God, it's a free country, that's fine. But what good are you? What do you do for anything or anybody?
Caller, could you give us your name again? The audio here in the studio was hard to understand.
JD.
JD, like...
James.
Okay. James, well, thank you for calling. We missed a little of the first part of your call, but you are asking us what good perhaps we do in the community.
Yeah. What do you do? I mean, you bash the Christians.
Let me say hypothetically that we do no good whatsoever. Would that prove or disprove the validity of the Bible?
Anything. I just asked you a simple question. I mean, I said churches do a lot of good.
But does that mean that the Bible is true?
I don't know. I mean, that's a faith thing. You can believe it or you don't have to. I mean, it's not trying to prove anything. I'm not trying to prove. I don't want to argue. I'm just asking you, what have you all done for the good of mankind?
Well,
not done anything, and that's fine. If you have, that's fine. I'm going to hang up with you.
Don't hang up, JD. Please stay with us.
We're a very small organization. We don't have the funds. You've got thousands and thousands of people around here who are able to pour funds into churches and use a little bit of that maybe to feed some food kitchens, et cetera, et cetera. The Atheists, or the Rationalists of East Tennessee, we've got only about 80 people, something like that. So on the scale that you're asking, we can't go out and make a big splash, but we're doing in the community. We do try to offer community outreach. One of the things we've done is we've gotten into this Adopt a Highway program. We do that regularly. We've done it for years. The other thing we try to do is bring together people for fellowship who cannot find that fellowship within the Christian community, that they just are at the point where they don't believe in the, well, what else can I say, in the mythology of the religion, and they want to find a place where they can feel at home. So we provide a home for them. Now, that's... the other thing we try to do is we try to emphasize science, and science is what has made this country great. It's not religion. You know, religion has not provided any information or insight into the world for 2,000 years or more than that. We've learned absolutely nothing about religion, about the world, how it works, or how to make technology to improve people's lives. But that's the kind of thing we try to emphasize in our group here with the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
So JD, how do churches do good?
Well, they feed people, they clothe them, they provide fellowship like you do. You got fellowship for non-believers, they got fellowship for believers. They reach out in the community. They also clean up the highways and do things. You know, they're very active. Sometimes they'll make up money and give to people that need it and things like that. So, you know, they've got a purpose. And I say y'all have a purpose, too. I'm not saying you don't have a purpose. I just wondered what it was. You know, for the betterment of the community and the betterment of mankind. Just, you know, I see where the church stands, you know. And I can see where I don't know where you stand. I mean, you're just, you know, I see y'all trying to say, well, the Bible's not true, that's not true, that's not true. Well, that's fine. You can say everything you want to. It's a free country. You know, I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I went to war for that. You know, and so, you know, that's,
I'd like
it's
to
a
talk
free
to you
country. You do what you want to.
Okay, so JD, have you ever read the book Purpose-Driven Life? It's by Richard Warren.
I read Rick Warren's book now.
Yeah, I read it, and you know, and in a nutshell, what he says is that our purpose is to love God and be good so that God can love us, and he treats as non-essential that we need to be good to one another.
I think it's true. I think we need to be good to one another, and I think we are good to one another. I think you'll find more goodness in faith-driven people of some faith than you would in non-faith-driven people.
And
that's just my opinion.
And JD, that
it's for whatever it's worth, but it ain't much. I ain't too educated.
Sure, JD, that's
degree or nothing, but
Yeah.
I don't know Rick Warren. I've never met him, never been to his church, never bought his book, never read it.
Let me address what you just said, though. You said that you thought that was going to be more true, I think, about people of faith. That is one of the reasons why we have to have this show, so that we become not invisible. Because people of faith essentially libel those of us of non-faith to say that we're immoral.
I don't particularly agree with that.
Oh.
I mean, people of non-faith have a right to have non-faith.
Do you know what libel means?
If the Bible has anything in it that's true, it was that Jesus loved everybody. He didn't just, when the lady came to him and asked him to heal her child, and, he didn't say nothing there for a while, and then the disciples said, well, and he said, I just come to the children of Israel. She said the dogs get the crumbs on the table, and so he took care of that situation. So,
well, I think...
if you believe that, if you don't believe it, that's fine, but, I'm just saying that it's all right if you want to produce a scientific show, but just to say that other people are wrong and you're right is that's pretty controversial.
But JD, what you just said, though, is that Christian people are better. Now, I wear this shirt on the show to... Here, let me explain where we do things that benefit the community, because you have essentially discounted that. I wear this show... I wear this shirt on the show because it helps generate phone calls. But when I'm not wearing one of these shirts, you'll often find me in one of the medic shirts. Do you know what the medic is? They do the blood donation. I try to donate regularly when my health permits, that kind of thing.
Well, that's good.
And that's something that we do for our fellow human beings. I and other members of the Rationalists of East Tennessee showed up in numbers to help the displaced persons after the Hurricane Katrina event.
Well, that's good. So did some church people, too. So
that's right. And so...
kind of evened up there.
So you can't go and say...
I'm going to go. I just want to get a little idea about what your agenda was.
So you can't go and say what you said, which is the church communities do some good, and you wanted to know what good we do, as if we didn't.
That, and I that's fine with me. You do what you want to do, and the rest of the world do what they want to do, and that's the way it is in the free country.
Yeah, I would agree with you, JD, except that's not exactly the way things go.
I'm getting a phone call. I'm going to go.
Okay, well, I'm sorry you hung up.
Thanks for calling, JD.
So for anyone who's still watching, I mean, the purpose we have here is that we would like to have a free country where everybody can believe what he wants to believe. But everybody's not entitled to his own facts. Okay?
That's right.
As Patrick Moynihan said at one time. And it's for those people who are Christian fundamentalists who want to impose their beliefs on the rest of society that we disagree. So...
Well, Ralph, we've got about 6 minutes left, and I see here in today's show notes that you've got a slide here about Pangaea.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we can get that slide brought up, and we can talk briefly about that before another call grabs us.
Okay. Well, one of the things we wanted to emphasize here was the age of the Earth times, and in 1914, the engineer Alfred Wegener suggested that all of the continents were once fused together in one large landmass. And the reason he came to that conclusion was that if you look at a map of the world as it is today, South America and Africa sort of would fit together if you put them together like a jigsaw puzzle. And he started looking, and the other continents did that too. And he finally came up with an idea that they might fit together like we've seen on the back of this screen here. Now, just fitting together isn't the strongest point. The fact is that the geological formations at the boundaries, where they look like they fit together, are exactly the same, even though they're thousands of miles apart now. And most important, I think, was that you might not be able to see it here, but there are a couple of little fossil animal and plant tracks, those colored tracks that go across there that show the distribution of those fossils in the different continents. And you'll notice those they exist in several different continents, which are now separated by thousands of miles. And so Wegener reasoned that these were once all together and then they spread apart. In particular, if you notice the green one, that's a plant called Glossopteris, which is a tropical plant.
And I think that this is one of the greatest things that humans have ever learned. And I think that this is such a fantastically wonderful story, so much better than the Noah story, and it has the advantage of being true.
Yeah.
Well, I think we got yet another call here.
Call? Hello, caller. Could you give us a name or nickname?
Yeah, this is Larry.
Larry. Hi, Larry.
Larry, I think we recognize your voice.
Yeah, I'm the executive producer of the show. I just got a call, probably through the Gmail line, from a lady who really didn't want to talk to you, but she wanted to express her opinion. And the opinion was that it's not fair that we're on the air. And the second opinion is that what we're doing is hate speech. And I thought you might want to address that. I'll back on off and just let you talk about it if you want to.
Well, I don't know what she means by it's not fair that we're on the air. I mean, we have one 1-hour program a week,
yeah.
And if you look at cable television, there are 5 or 6 stations that are on almost all the time with religious programs.
Right. I made that point, but she didn't seem to care about it. But she did. That's when she brought up that we were doing hate speech.
And I haven't.
Well, if disagreeing with someone is hate, then that's what we're doing. We like to think that we're disagreeing civilly, and we would like to contrast what we're doing with what's going on in Bangladesh, where, let's see, they're demanding that atheists be, what was that?
Executed.
Executed, yeah. Larry, did the caller leave a name or a nickname for us?
She did at the very beginning, but I didn't.
Okay. Well, we wish the caller to call in sometime, and we hope to have a conversation. And we'll try not to be hateful if the caller will try not to be hateful.
I don't think we've been hateful at all. Have we?
Yeah.
Said the word hate or anything?
Well,
I think we're pretty polite.
Sometimes people treat just having a contrary opinion as hateful.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
And you know, there we maybe have to discuss what does the word hate mean, in fact.
Yeah, I mean,
really? Okay, well, I'll let you go. It's a great show. Keep it up.
Well, thanks for bringing in that phone call to us, Larry.
Sure.
Looking forward to seeing you down at Barley's.
All right. Well, man, we've only got a couple minutes left. Are there a couple points that you think were the highlight of our notes here that you'd like to jump on?
Well, maybe one. I don't know if we could. I'll just say a couple words that these continents that we see back here, as Lee mentioned, they move only a couple centimeters a year, right? And we can actually measure this now. With laser systems, and that's about the rate at which your fingernails grow.
Yep.
That's about 1 inch a year. And if you look at that, look at these all clustered together, and see where they are now around the world, they probably moved around 6,000 miles, say a quarter of the way around the Earth or something. You find out that if they only move 1 inch a year, that takes about 300 million years.
I'm going to say it's probably about 150 million years.
Well, I worked this out in my head as I was driving over, and it came out to be more like 350 million maybe, but whatever.
Well, South America here, over my head, broke away from Africa, further over my head, separating the fossils of dinosaurs. And that happened somewhere on the order of 150, 160 million years. Now, there would still be some communications between the continents because until they're separated by vast distances, you can still get occasional transport of creatures on floating logs or little islands.
Well, it'd be fascinating to go more, but we only have about a minute left, and we have to close. So it's time to start wrapping things up. Get out your pen and paper.
All right, this has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
Please send us your feedback. Leave voicemail at 865 272-9060 or email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
You can see this show most Tuesdays from 5 to 6 p.m.
Okay, and our thanks to Sam and Jonas for technical help, to the staff at CTV, Knox, and to all our callers. We had a great group of callers today.
It's the callers that make the show.
Callers that make the show. And
Thank you so much.
Encourage you to call in